I'm actually gonna film a segment away from Steve. I had thought about this earlier when Steve and I were being each other's camera persons, and I realized that to see him on the other side of the camera while I was talking about things was extremely hard. Not because it was hard to talk with Steve in the room, but because the emotions of everything caught up with me a little bit, and I found myself more reserved. Warning, the following content some viewers may find disturbing, gross, and stomach-turning. In order to share the following story, we feel this content is needed. Viewer discretion is advised. Part 2 was about Steve going into the cardiac unit at WVU, and I had mentioned that that was probably maybe we were a little naive with things. Eventually he got off the cardiac floor and he was able to then switch to fluconazole.
So what they had done in the biohazard lab located in Texas with the biopsy that I had, they had taken all the fungal medicines, stacked them up and see which one would kill it faster to make my treatment less. The order of this was itraconazole was the best one, fluconazole being second. Number 3, they would use the amphotericin B. Number 4 being voriconazole, being the least effective.
So we were able to know the exact number that was needed of that fluconazole, which we're very fortunate at that because a lot of people don't know that, and it's really just a guessing game. And it was also the fact that, you know, the one lab had said that it was pyoderma gangrenosum, it's a tongue full. They had sent it to get okayed with the pathologist, and the pathologist is like, no, this is what I'm seeing. So we're very fortunate and blessed that we had that pathologist at that particular time, and I don't believe that those things are coincidence.
At that point, they sent me back home. I came home, I started my treatment with fluconazole. Fluconazole seemed to work a lot better with me. It didn't cause the heaviness in my chest. My breathing started getting better. I actually started feeling better. The lesions on my side, they actually started healing up, started looking better, and had, I'm not going to say completely healed because they were really deep. At one point they were probably ½ inch, 3/4 of an inch deep into my side.
It's going to get real. Most of you may be watching this because you have watched Steve play with his band. You know, he's a musician. He has a job in the daytime, and he plays music on the side or sometimes throughout the summertime. The summer before Steve was sick, that year we had played, I think, 53 to 56 shows, somewhere around there, from maybe March till October. We had a full schedule that summer. We were so excited. And for an independent artist to have a full schedule, that's actually a really, really big deal. It's a really, really huge, huge deal. To the point where we were thinking, wow, could he do this full time? Are we finally at that time to where he could go and play music full time, 365 days a year, if that's what he would choose to do? We were on the verge, going back and forth, contemplating on if that's what we were going to do or not. With the diagnosis of the blastomycosis came the fact that summer things had to be canceled. He had played a concert before the blastomycosis diagnosis, but after the antifungal medicines came, Steve was just, his head was clouded, he couldn't remember the lyrics, he couldn't remember the chords. He would make songs that he wrote, he couldn't remember the lyrics to. He would have to make them up on the fly. His fingers for banjo wouldn't work, and he'd get really, really frustrated with that. As he felt okay, he would go out to his studio and play music, but I noticed when he got off the cardiac floor, those trips got further and further and further away. He was sleeping on the couch a lot more. Then the headaches came. It's like, well, the first thing we have to do is we have to check his brain. What? Oh, that's right. It can go to his brain. We went through the testing for that, quietly waiting, not publicly saying anything about it. We didn't want to scare our kids. That was huge. We definitely did not want to scare our kids. Then money stopped because work was quite a, let's say process. That's the best word. It was a process. It was tons and tons of paperwork. It was really, really, really hard to get through. It was a lady sitting in some state that had never saw Steve, a third-party company making decisions about him that was overruling what his doctor was saying that he shouldn't do. Okay, the head came back clear. His brain was fine. It was just the side effect of the fluconazole. I remember going, and Steve had committed to playing 2 songs somewhere on his banjo. And he was bound and determined to keep this gig. He said, I'll be sitting down. How hard is this gonna be? I'm gonna be sitting down, I'm gonna play like 2 songs. It's no big deal. Okay, so we went, and he was all smiles. But if you know Steve through that time, you know Steve looked really, really, like his face was gray, and he had dark circles under his eyes, and he just looked sick. You know, people kept saying, are you sure he's okay? I'm like, oh yeah, he's okay. Yeah, he's okay. He's too tough. He's too tough. And I remember watching him play at that venue for those two songs. And I could tell by the way he got up, I thought, uh-oh, this isn't good. This is not good at all. I was on the front row, and I quietly tried to get back to backstage to see him. I went back behind the stage, and we've never really told this story to anybody. I went behind the stage where it was just Steve, and he was bent over on his hands and knees. And he had put his instrument away, and I said, are you okay? Are you okay? And he said, I think I'm gonna pass out. I think I'm gonna pass out. What? You cannot pass out. We're backstage. There's like all these people here. You cannot pass out. And he's like, I just need a minute. I think I'm gonna pass out. I was like, oh my gosh, he's gonna thunk right here on the floor, right? We politely said goodbye to everybody. We tried to stay for a little while. Then I was like, we need to go home. It's time to go home. This was a big ordeal for you. We have to go home. I brought him home. And it's hard. It's hard to watch someone that you love. It's hard to watch someone you love sick. It's hard to watch someone you love that has this God-given talent that is not able to do it, that's sick.
So one evening, I was taking a shower, and just by the brush of a washcloth, the skin came off of everything that had healed up. What had happened was my body, the mold rather, the blasto, had formed a resistance against fluconazole. So fluconazole was not going to work for me anymore. And we know itraconazole was out. So this is where things started getting a little bit scary. So I am into this 7.5, going on 8 months, and still have this problem. Not that I'm going backwards. We just kept it beat back, and we kept it from progressing any farther, but I wasn't getting any better, but I wasn't getting any worse. During all of this time, I've had chest x-rays, CAT scans, every kind of scan you can think of to try to figure out what was going on. I'd actually had the blasto in my left lung and in my right lung. It was in there and about the size of dime, nickel, maybe a little bit bigger than that, what it showed on the x-rays and the CAT scans. And this wasn't getting any smaller, it wasn't shrinking. So again, back to my infectious disease doctor. They put me back in the hospital again, and I think this time that would have been right before Thanksgiving in 2015. They needed to put a PICC line in order to be able to administer the amphotericin B.
By this time, his employment had said he had to be back at work. I think it was like, I'm just going to pick a day. It's not even going to be accurate. Let's just say like November 9th or something like that. Like, I don't even remember. And I'm like, are you going to be able to go back to work? He's like, I have no choice. I have to go back to work. You know, I'm on this medicine, and the doctor says, don't operate heavy machinery. That's what he did. Don't be in the dirt. That's what he did. And Steve's like, I have no choice. I have to be employed. I have to go back to work. So we were trying to get his energy, and I was like, Steve, there's no way you're gonna be able to do this. I'm gonna have to drive you to work every day, which is 45, 50 minutes away, and then I'm gonna have to go pick you up because there's no way he could not drive. Like we did not, we tried not to let him drive anywhere. He would just sleep. He would sleep all day long. He would just sleep. I called the doctor and I said, Dr. Gilfuss, this is what's happening. And he said, Katie, this isn't good. You gotta come see me. Okay, so what now? By this time, I was on Facebook and forums, and there was just a few blastomycosis forums, and I'm like, oh, amphotericin B. Yes, this is the stuff. This is like the golden juice. This is the coveted stuff. Like you take this stuff and it's like kapow. Goodbye blastomycosis. And actually Dr. Gilfuss is like, it's time for the bazooka. We're gonna hit it with the bazooka now. And I'm like, okay, let's hit it with the bazooka. They admit Steve into the hospital and because they said like all these things can happen when you take this medicine. So you need to sign here, sign here, sign here, and you need to agree that, you know, this could kill him and this could happen and this could happen. And I'm in there just like, oh my gosh, I'm like signing my husband's life away and he's signing papers. And I'll never forget, I had the thought, I'm like, oh my gosh, Steve's supposed to be at work on Thursday or Friday. I think this was like a Tuesday. Oh no, I need to let someone know he's not gonna be there. And I couldn't get a hold of anybody. And I couldn't get a hold of anybody. And the following day, he starts his treatment. And they had just started all this treatment, and it was just a very, very emotional time. And I remember getting this call, and I had to go into the bathroom because I didn't want Steve to see any of this part of things because he felt bad enough. And I didn't want him to have to see that part of the fight right now because he was taking this medicine. They had just started the amphotericin B. It had some weird things making his body feel really, really weird. And they said it was like equivalent to maybe taking a chemo. The lights were dimmed. He's in his bed. He's just trying to rest. He's warding off a headache. You know, they give him medicine because of his headaches. I'm in the bathroom on my cell phone trying to explain why he will not be at work. Right? And they're like, well, so you're gonna have to file this, and you're gonna have to do this, and you're gonna have to do this. And I'm like, do you not understand? I'm in the bathroom right now, but I'm talking like this. I'm in the bathroom right now. He has a PICC line in his arm. Are you aware of what a PICC line is? Like, he cannot come to work. He's in the hospital. He'll be here for a few days. He won't be coming. And it made me so mad that I had to have that conversation at that particular time. Of all things, it's like of all things I had to deal with, I had to have that conversation that my husband was laying in bed worried that he was not going to have a job, that he would not be able to fulfill his obligations. It's those things that just, they stay with you. The whole time he had his PICC line, kept saying, fingers feel weird, my fingers are going numb, and they wouldn't let me in the room when they were putting this PICC line in. And he just kept complaining. He would say, I mean, Steve's not really a complainer, but he would say to me, like, Katie, this just doesn't feel right. This just doesn't feel right.
My PICC line went bad. They actually hit a nerve in my arm, and I couldn't hardly move my fingers.
I can't really move these fingers like I should be able to. And I'm like, okay, stop the bus. We got to figure this stuff out like right now because he's a banjo picker. And see these 3 fingers? I call these 3 fingers our money fingers. I need to be able to do this. And he couldn't do this. And I called someone and I was like, you all need to get someone in here and look at this PICC line. And they're like, oh, there's like no way. There's, you know, he's okay. That I'm like, no, you don't understand. You need to get someone here because these 3 fingers, I don't need permanent nerve damage on these 3 fingers. These 3 fingers need to be able to work. I sent someone in and they came to the conclusion after I was like, y'all need to fix this. Like, you need to fix this like right now. Dr. Gilfuss said, you know, normally we don't send patients home on amphotericin B, but they felt okay and comfortable with me watching Steve and watching the home health care nurse. And trust me, I watched him like a hawk. Administrating this liquid gold. And let me tell you something, it's liquid gold because we had to go through this approval process with our insurance and it was a lot of money. And we were getting he was getting these treatments every other day.
Home health care came, started giving me the amphotericin B here at home, and every other day they would have to pull blood, check my liver enzymes and my kidney functions. to see how they work, because this is extremely hard on your liver. So after receiving these treatments at home for 2 treatments, that's 4 days, that's all I was able to take at home.
So he had his little IV pole. We brought him home. He has a little IV pole, and he just slept. I mean, he just slept for days. He would get up and go to the bathroom. He wouldn't really eat. It was just a nightmare. So they would come and draw labs because Dr. Gilfu said the biggest thing we have to watch are his kidneys. This can like immediately shut his kidneys down. Then his liver would go. I get this call from Dr. Gilfu's. Katie, it's Dr. Gilfu's. It's John. Hey. Did Steve get his treatment today? No, not yet. They're gonna come this afternoon. Do not. We put a call into them, but do not let them give them the treatment. Why not? Well, I'm like, oh my gosh, are his kidneys being affected? Are we killing his kidneys? No. His kidneys were being affected. His kidneys, I think, were at 50% at that point. He said, but his liver, we're killing his liver, and we can't kill his liver. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, what do we do? He said, well, we have to stop treatment, and we have to allow his liver to bounce back. He said,